Dude, did you know that James Jamerson's first electric bass wasn't even that classic sunburst he was so famous for? That classic sunburst wasn't even his second!
What?
Do you know the 9 things that define the James Jamerson sound? Do you know how much James Jamerson was getting paid from Berry Gordy and Motown Records at the absolute height of his career? And do you know how the reign of one of the most influential and important bassists of our time came to a tragic end?
I have a feeling I'm about to find out.
Well, in this video, Mr. Allison, you and our gorgeous viewers here are going to find out all of that and more as we celebrate some of James Jamerson's greatest bass lines. But first, let's kick this off with Stevie Wonder and Uptight.
Right out of the gate.
Dude, instant Jamerson. So we've got all of this tension happening down on that E string as it goes up to the 5th between D flat and A flat, isn't it? But then also like the syncopation of it. He's not going bom 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 bom.
Oh, I know.
Bom bom bom.
That's the thing we're going to see with Jamerson throughout all these bass lines, right? Is this cool, masterful. It's never doing this. Right? It's a really interesting way to interpret this like classic sort of gospel walk thing where you're going from the 1 to the 5 and he gives it to you one time right at the top of the tune. But then after that,
he's out.
Yeah, after that he chooses to go to the 4. And what happens then, right? Like it just takes longer to go run back up to the 1, and then the last time he plays.
So it's more classic, the last one, isn't it? Yeah. And this is like classic James Jamerson, isn't it? That he's manipulating the harmony because he's not putting the bass notes, the root notes where you think they're going to go, or with the rest of the band, frankly. He's manipulating that. And what we're seeing in this case is him holding on. He's holding back, and then he resolves it. But then in all of like these other, examples that we've got for you today, you're going to see sometimes he actually lands on it way before the rest of the band. He'll get to the root note and anticipate the root. So it just, God, he was good.
He was good. So if you want to learn these lines, don't worry. We have all of that for you down in the description. There's a link with all the tab and notation. You go, grab it. Of course, it's absolutely free.
That last one was 1965, so Jamerson was just 29 years old. This next one, he was the big 3-0. It is Reach Out, I'll Be There by the Four Tops. Like, come on. It's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible.
The thing I noticed right away, especially when you're playing that like verse thing, is 4 on the snare, right? So I've heard producers refer to that thing where the snare is hitting on 1, 2, 3, 4 as either 4 on the snare or just Motown.
Oh, is that the vibe?
Yeah, like play the Motown drum beat. And the cool thing about 4 on the snare, it's like locking down quarters. So then Jamerson is able to like bounce around it.
Exactly. It's kind of bouncy and it's swung as well.
And the anticipations, like you were talking about,
that
getting
D
to
flat,
that 4 chord.
He reaches there before anybody else. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, that's
so cool. And we just got this bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then my favorite bit as well, this.
I mean, and all roots fourths and fifths, with just really sophisticated syncopation.
And that thing there, that root 5 and octave thing, it's actually the bass line from Bernadette that was released a few years later. I wonder if it was inspired by it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Do you want to hear my little bio that I put together for you?
I would love to. You put together a bio?
Yeah, it's not about you. It's about James Jamerson.
yeah.
Okay, so check this out. Born in Charleston, South Carolina in 1936. One of, how many children do you think?
3.
12.
No.
One of 12. And he ended up actually in his early years getting brought up by his grandmother, who played piano, and his auntie, who sang in the church choir. And that was kind of his first touch point with music. But I think around 10 years old, he actually ended up moving to Detroit with his mother. And then that is when he picked up upright for the first time when he was going to Northwestern High School. Now, around town at this time, he was playing blues and jazz in clubs, even though he was underage. But the police heard that he was so great and he was like really getting a name for himself that they used to just let him into the clubs. Be like, whatever, James, in you go.
Cool, that's cool cops.
And it's really important as well that we understand around this time who his influences were. Remember, he was an upright jazz player, so he was listening to the likes of Ray Brown, Paul Chambers, and Percy Heath. Obviously, he was out there working, and he ultimately ended up meeting Berry Gordy in the late 50s, around 1960 as well, and he became a member of the super famous Funk Brothers, who were the guys that were working down in the Snake Pit, which was the famous basement studio at Motown Records. And in the early 60s, in fact, I think it was in 1960, he actually picked up the P bass for the first time. But it wasn't the P bass that everybody knows.
Oh.
It was a 1957 black refinished P bass. Ended up not playing it just on its own on sessions to begin with. He actually doubled, so he was playing upright and then doubling up on the P bass to give the sound a little bit more definition. But that bass was actually stolen from his car. Ultimately, he ended up in 1962 getting that famous P bass that stayed with him throughout his career. How much do you think he was getting paid at the very height of his career?
I don't know.
$1,000 a week. $52,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if I was diligent and a good boy, I would have worked out in terms of inflation rate and stuff like that, what that would be today.
Oh, I can't
in today's
wait.
money. Turns out I am diligent. It's just over $400,000 a year.
Wow.
That's how much he was getting. So he was on fire.
He was killing it. Yeah, I was going to say like $1,000 a week in the 60s feels like good money.
Not so bad now. At the height of his career, they would postpone recording dates until he was available because they knew that his bass playing was so impactful. And they had, it was kind of like a bit of witchcraft. They thought it was his bass lines that were propelling those tunes to the top of the charts. And in many cases, I would argue probably was the bass lines.
Right.
Yeah.
It had such propulsion and so many hooks in the bass lines themselves. Okay, so right now we're going to do the Supremes, You Can't Hurry Love, and check it out. It's not the most complicated Jamerson bass line, but it does that thing that Scott was talking about where it's really anticipating. It is moving the band to the next chord so soon, and it's notable and cool. Check it out. That sound, the bounce.
I need love to ease my mind.
Anticipation.
I need to find
So good.
someone to call mine. But mama said, can't hurry love. No, you just have to wait. She said, love don't come easy. It's a game of give and take.
It's so bold to go dun 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 dun. You know what I mean? Like to anticipate that chord like that. It's so cool. Also, I have to say, I am not playing with one finger, and we're going to talk about it.
Let's talk about it, dude.
James Jamerson used one finger.
It is wild that he does this, like this. Oh, that is so hard. Like I have to play with 2 fingers to make that thing happen.
Yeah.
But he's not.
He played it super light as well. But how are you getting that bounce when you do that?
So I'm doing what I've heard Jamerson did, and I feel like you might have the inside info on this, right? But cover on the P bass, 3 fingers on the cover, 1 finger in front. When I'm cheating and using 2 fingers. than this. And I'm just rocking back and forth with that first finger.
That is such a vibe. It's
It is a
incredible.
vibe.
Should we dive into sort of like the key parts of Jamerson's tone?
Let's do it.
So obviously he's got the P bass,
Yes, he does.
and you've got what strings on yours?
So I have the Jamerson labellas, just the heaviest beast
Oh, are they the
strings.
Jamerson ones?
Yeah, man, they are. I've got the real Jamerson ones. Let me see. 52 on the G, 73 on the D,
Outrageous.
95 on the A string, and 110.
What does it feel like?
It feels really stiff. So I actually, before we did this video, I gave this bass a full setup. I took the neck off, adjusted the truss rod. I straightened this neck out. But then when you get the action low, they really feel great. It doesn't feel like horrible. I feel like I could play a gig and it would be fine. If the action was super
interesting.
high though, like Jamerson had it, I believe, I think it would be murder to play this. But you know, you don't need the actual labella Jamerson flats unless you're really going for that thing. But flat wounds, that's another thing. Flat wound strings, right? And you have some on your bass as well.
Now, another thing to bear in mind on top of the strings is how you play the strings. It's really important if you're trying to get this James Jamerson sound that you play not over the P pickup and you play in front around here, because it does sound different versus on the pickup.
Do you know why?
The big bit of metal, right?
Exactly, yeah. He just didn't
Yeah.
want to take it off.
It makes me want to put it on, because without it, I always gravitate to playing over the pickup,
Right.
But you don't really get that Jamerson sound until you're over here. But what you're also going to do is you're going to have to start using open strings a lot. There's these classic. It might feel weird to begin with. It definitely feels weird to me when I'm trying to play like this, but I think it's just a key part of Jamerson's sound, and he did it because he came from an upright background.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, foam. Getting a bunch of foam. I mean, look at this. Divine's got a big old chunk of foam stuck in there. Yeah. And Jamerson had a 60s P bass like this one, and he didn't want to take off the covers. And I don't know if you know this, but these basses came with the bridge cover with foam glued to the top of the cover. So when the cover was on, it put a mute in. What it does, it actually, for me, doesn't do a lot of decay in the low notes. Like, you still have sustain, but what it does is it sort of gets rid of some of the brightness in attack. And then up high, it just has this kind of nice, pleasant, almost upright-esque sound. And he just rolled with that the entire time. He thought it was part of the sound and the look of the instrument. He never changed it.
Should we just jump into Ain't No Mountain High Enough? And then we can talk about foam, because it's kind of important to this tune. And then we can hear Jamerson playing isolated as well, so you can hear how much foam he's got under them strings. Check it out.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough.
Come on.
It's so cool.
Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day.
This is one of these bass lines where when I play it over the P bass pickup, doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Ooh. You hear the attack soften. Okay, so I love YouTube. You probably love YouTube. But let's be honest. It's not the best platform for in-depth teaching. Enter the SBL Academy. At SBL, we break down the bass with a curriculum-driven approach that spans from complete beginner level to super advanced. We also cover all kinds of genres, skills, and techniques, all brought to you by world-class bass instructors. And best of all, you can get started today for free at trysbl.com.
Check it out. I've got Jamerson isolated here, and listen to how much foam he must have under his. Let me play it first of all, and then
Sure.
he can play it, right? So check it
Yeah.
out. Right, so. Did you just hear that first note?
Yeah, it really dies quickly.
Just the first note.
It sounds like high action, a ton of foam, and decade-old strings. There's a great story, too, of him calling Labella because he broke a string and asking them if they could weld it. Because he didn't want to change the string to have, the new bright strings that you're trying to mitigate. You're trying to play them for years and get your gunk all over them, right? So that they chill out.
Let's jump into the next tune. Just a quick reminder, if you were watching me play Ain't No Mountain High Enough and you were like, well, what are all of the notes and all of that stuff? Remember, we've got the tab and notation for you down there in the description. Soon enough, Ian and I are going to have t-shirts. It's going to say something like, get your tab and notation down below. Don't think we didn't see it in the comments a few weeks back. We're on you. We're on you. Anyway, let's do the next tune.
People are searching for the kind of love that we possess. Some go on, searching their whole life through, and never find the love I found in you.
Oh, dang.
And remember, he did it with one finger.
One finger.
You got it. You got it.
Ah, man, it's so hard. Check it out. I've got him playing it right here, solo.
Wow. Whoa.
I tell you what really is important as well that we point out, the amount of raking that Jamerson did.
Ah, sure.
Like, I play that with two fingers, but I still rake like Jamerson did. I'm going...
Hey, and since we're talking about the hook, I've got a great clip of Jamerson actually playing with Marvin Gaye, and you can see the hook in action. Check it out.
What's going on? Hey, what's going
Kind of floating thumb, right? And look at that, 3 fingers on the cover. But I gotta show you something else, Divine. Do you notice this? Take a look at that bass. Take a look at that bass closely. Now, I think a lot of people think that is the 62 Funk Machine, but I have heard some new stuff swirling around the internet that the Funk Machine wasn't actually a 62. Yeah, I don't know if I'm right, but I've heard it, and I'm saying it, that it was potentially a 65 to 66 P bass. And I have to say, the burst pattern on this is actually very similar to the bright burst of what they were doing in 65. And in fact, hold on a minute. I mean, no one's ever found it. This is a 65, Scott Divine.
What are you saying?
I'm saying maybe this is the actual Funk Machine. Okay, so I'm going to get us through Heard It Through the Grapevine, and the whole thing is an absolute masterclass in his sound, articulation, cleanliness of attack. Unbelievable, but I'm just going to show you the chorus. It's my favorite part. It's so cool. Check it out. Oh man, and I don't even know if I hit that thing at the end right, but it's insane. So he's playing like that. It's so nasty. Slower. And it's just triads, right? It's C, C, and then up the, 5th octave, 5th, 3rd, root, down here. But that thing...
The vibe is that you want to get that kind of like water just pouring over the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
This is a great bass line for everybody to learn, though, just to get that triad shape down. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Breaking down classic bass players and their canon is something we love to do, but it is an absolute beast. You know why we do it? We do it for you! So if you wouldn't mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We want to keep making these deep dives for you.
Do you know who else is a huge Pinot fan? Hey, dude, do you know who else is a huge James Jamerson fan?
Who?
Pino! Check this out. Check this out.
Hello, this is Pino Palladino. When I first heard Motown on the radio as a child, there was always something about the music that really touched me. It took me a long time to realise that apart from the great songs, it was James Jamerson's bass playing that was really grabbing me. His influence can be heard on many of today's records and will always be apparent in popular music. This is James Jamerson's bass line from For Once in My Life by Stevie Wonder.
This is Pino playing the bass line. Listen to how much he swings it. It's outrageous.
Even with the cheesy drum track, like, the bass playing is crazy.
Oh,
I think maybe the MVP of that entire, like, playthrough section of the Motown book, right? Like, all these legends playing in this, but I think Pino maybe sounds the best. Do you feel that way?
I think he does. I think he does. No shade on anybody else in the book, but that's the one when I was listening to the tapes that, by the way, tapes. When I was listening to the tapes,
Cassettes, dude.
When I was listening to the tapes, he was the one I was like, oh, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
And it's the bounce he gets. It's just incredible. It's incredible. Now, what's not going to be incredible is the next bass line that I play, because it's a complete beast and I might mess this up. Let's get to it.
Oh, so cool.
But dude, it's this line that's the killer.
Oh, that is crazy cool.
You're going to have to download the tab and notation, guys, if you want to see what's going on here. It's too much just to go. This video will be like an hour long, right? So.
That's incredible.
So that transition there,
Yeah.
open D, gives him enough time to get down.
Tab and notation, you know where to go.
I'm going to go down there. I'm going to download it. I need this stuff.
All right, if you're feeling a bit of despair around how difficult this stuff is,
I am.
yeah, me too. Let me show you one of my first favorite Motown tunes, one of the first ones that I learned, one of the first ones in the book, because it was just like one line long, and it really is excellent. It's The Temptations, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. It's a great example of Jamerson using simple triads and simple syncopation. You'll be able to get it instantly. Check it out. It's just a great simple line, right? You got C triad, and then just a part of the F triad, and that's the whole line. And it is really a cool way to get into Jamerson and feel some success versus getting into some of the nastier stuff that that we're getting into in this video.
Talking about nasty, the next one might be the nastiest. Darling Dear, Jackson 5, 1970.
Hot potato to you.
Let me just let me get this book
Get the
here.
book out, huh? Get the book out.
The game of love is such a beautiful game. If you got
on.
time, little girl, I'd like to explain.
Scott Devine in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Wills and wants, so lend an ear, darling dear.
I think I made it through.
That is outrageous, dude. That's so good.
So there's a lot. I don't really know where to start. So it might help if I just play through this kind of slow and then I'll stop at bits that really jumped out to me as like significant.
Ooh.
Yes, by the way, yes,
That is
just
killer.
happened. Yeah. Can everyone just take a moment?
It's like a beautiful beautiful stream of consciousness. But I mean, it all makes sense. It's actually very pleasant to listen to. It's so
beautiful.
busy, you know, but it's so lovely to listen to.
It's a masterpiece, actually. I don't even know how anybody else could get away with doing that. Can you imagine if you turned up to a session?
No.
And that's what you play?
I know. I know.
It's, you know, I think part of it is his sound.
It's my two favorite things, my two favorite attributes of bass, sound and time. Because if his time was goofy, it would not work. He has such a lock on where all those anticipations are, where he's deciding to put them, how he's pushing. He's not laid back. He's actually kind of like propelling the music along, and the drums feel kind of laid back, and he's sort of like pushing forward. And if it were lazy or he didn't have that sense of syncopation and his sound were bright, no.
Game over, yeah. Game
Yeah.
over. Do you want to jump into what's going on? Because
Yeah.
that's like the opposite of the bass line I've just played.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I'm just looking at it down here because I'm like, oh boy. Hello, darkness, my old friend. You know, like, all right, well, let's give it a go.
Mother, there's too many of you cry. Brother, there's far too many of you die.
I love that.
You know you've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah.
I mean, it's so chill, but it is deceptively tricky. I mean, that run up at the end where he's playing like that. It's such a great line.
It's a zadidoo, zadidoo, bodoo, zadidoo.
How cool is that? He swings it so nice, man. And what I'm talking about the space is when he goes up and plays that C sharp minor, the tragic combo of the intense 6th fret dead spot on most Fender necks, right? You either have a dead spot almost always on like 5, 6, or 7, maybe even 8 on the G string, but on this bass, woo, you know, and the foam just kills it. But listen to that with Jamerson. I love that he hangs out on it and it dies and it's fine.
Yes, no apologies.
There's far too many of you die.
I mean, even on the lyric dying too, it just, you know, that
Oh
C sharp.
my word.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so good.
so cool, man.
It's kind of sad as well. Like around this time, his entire life was going to change, right? So we
Yeah.
talked about the tragic end of Jamerson earlier on. This was like 1970 or 71, I think. But in 1970, I think it was 1972, Motown moved to LA. And that's when things really started to change. I think that he was maybe the only person that moved down from Motown record like Hitsville to LA. But at that time, like things were changing, like round wound strings were a thing. Slap bass was like a new thing. And then by 75, 76, you've got the disco era coming in. And really, this is heartbreaking to say, but the Jamerson sound kind of became irrelevant. So Jamerson, by the late 70s, was really struggling to get a lot of work. And then by the early 80s, wasn't working. And like many people know that he suffered with alcoholism for pretty much his entire life. And ultimately, he ended up dying from cirrhosis of the liver and then heart failure. And I think that he had pneumonia as well. So he's like super tragic end. He actually didn't get any recognition for the bass lines that he created,
Yes.
as did any of the Motown musicians.
And didn't this project, when Standing in the Shadows of Motown came out, this book, accompanied with that great documentary, kind of blew open the doors and gave all those musicians, the Funk Brothers, credit for all that great stuff they played.
Everybody should get it. It's
Yes.
got all of the Jamerson bass lines in it. It's got all of these great players like John Patitucci, Jimmy Haslett,
Geddy Lee is in there too.
Paul McCartney. Do you know that other than Paul McCartney, James Jamerson played on more number ones than any bass player?
Wow, that's amazing.
Anthony Jackson's in this book. In fact, I wanted to just do a bit of a hat tip because I think that he's another James Jamerson in our lifetime, somebody that's really had a huge impact on bass players around the world. And in the end of this book, he plays an incredible track by Diana Ross and the Supremes called How Long Has This Evening Train Been Gone? And when I listen to it, I can really hear Jamerson's influence on Anthony Jackson, why and how he developed in the way that he did. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse into this tune as well, because I think it's just outrageous.
Has that evening train been gone? I wanna know how long.
It's so cool.
Has that evening train
Come on.
Check this out. The notes here.
Whoa. All those open A's?
He plays E flat, A, G, A flat,
Yes.
A, B flat.
Whoa. It's crazy because your ear doesn't even hear the A. You know what I mean?
It doesn't know, yeah.
It just hears it as like a syncopation.
It's so good, isn't it? Thanks for watching, guys. We love making these videos for you. Let us know in the comments. Obviously this was the iconic bass lines of James Jamerson. Who do you want? Let us know in the comments and we'll make that video for you. I can't think of any video we ever made where I had to have the book.
Me
or
too.
Any music. Lift it up, Ian. What's in your lap, Ian? Come on.
I got it, man. I got that book.
You got
It
the
is
book.
close at hand. Do you know why it was called the Snake Pit?
I do.
You couldn't even pretend. You're like,
Oh,
yes,
I
of
can,
course.
I can.
You're like, of course, yes, I know all the information about Jamerson and Motown.